So how do you recognize early on when you meet someone for the first time whether this person is a healthy person or potentially kind of toxic, narcissistic, or even abusive kind of person is one of the questions I get asked the most often. So for those of you who don't know me yet, I am Tanya Windecker and I have complex PTSD myself. So this is an area I had to do a lot of work on too, because if you have a lot of trauma in your life, you tend to draw toxic people back into your life, or you fall for them repeatedly. So, but as we're working through our healing, we're feeling more and more ready to actually have a close, meaningful friendship in our life. You know, letting our guard down a little bit and having a relationship in our life again. But how do we not fall for a toxic person yet again? So these are some of the things that I looked at. So first off, if there is this, if I meet someone and I'm feeling really psyched up and like really, really good, like through the roof good, because there's just so much charming compliments and so much positive feedback, like to the point that the way I drink water is awesome. That kind of over-the-top compliments, they are flags. Okay, because in a healthy friendship or communication with someone, there's compliments, but then you have some fun about something, or you talk about something a little bit more deeper, or you talk about, I don't know, discuss something else. So there's a balance between compliments and talking about other things. But toxic, or especially narcissistic people, they go overboard, making you feel really, really good. And we so kind of long for this as well, because when you had a childhood filled with trauma, you really kind of want to have some form of acknowledgement, and it really helps you feel good about yourself. But this is where it becomes really dangerous if our self-worth or the way we feel about ourselves is dependent on someone else's feedback or compliments. Then that's a very dangerous position to be in, because we keep falling for those people, and we get these big spikes with abusive people, just like we had in our childhood, these intense emotions. So many trauma survivors are like thrill seekers, adrenaline junkies. They go for hobbies like jumping out of planes and things like that, because it gives you those big spikes. So when you first meet someone and there's these really intense emotions, these really magnetic pull towards that person, recognize this. These are big flag signs, you know. Healthy friendships, they're much more balanced. And to us, unfortunately, for a while, they actually feel boring. So if you meet someone and you feel like, well, we actually had kind of fun, you know, it was nice talking to them, but it was a little bit boring, that's probably better to catch up with that person again, because it just means you don't have these big spikes. It's more balanced, and the more you catch up with people that are more balanced, the more you realize, hey, this is actually safe, and you can really let your guard down little by little, and there is no big fallbacks like with a toxic person when they then come with the guilt trips, or they minimize you or critique you. That doesn't happen in healthy friendships. Like, you know, if someone calls you, asks you, do you have time to give me a lift to somewhere? And you say no, a toxic person will make you feel guilty, say things like, but after all I do for you, you can't even do that, and things like that. They're big warning signs, because a healthy person, for starters, feels okay about calling more than one person, and they'll just keep calling, but they also recognize that you've got a life and you can't just drop everything for them. And they may say, oh, well, I already tried, I don't know, Julie and Anna, and they couldn't either, and you can't, who else could I call? You know, they might ask you to help them find someone who could give them a lift, rather than making you feel bad for not being able to do so. So that's just another sign there. So we don't want to have the charming, strong magnetic pull. With the guilt trips are things that we really want to look out for. That intensity, for me, was the big giveaway. But first off, before we go out, I think it's really important that we allow ourselves to feel good about ourselves without actually getting a compliment from anyone else. and giving ourselves some self-compassion, because that's one thing I noticed: the more I could be compassionate towards myself, the more I drew into my life people who are compassionate, kind and caring and so forth. That was just my experience, and as I said, I'm always curious to hear your tips there as well, how you recognize and spot toxic people early on, and more important, how do you go in allowing yourself to feel good about yourself. That's the key to healing. So, but as always, sending you lots and lots of love and rainbows to brighten up the tough times just a little.